Hello, welcome to the third page of your review. Hopefully you're still with us. The telephone pole has a height of 40 meters, and that's straight up. In a giant storm, the telephone pole is struck by lightning. There's my nice thunderbolt. And the tip of the pole ends up 20 meters away over here. So this distance is 20 meters. How far up from the ground did the pole break? So we want to find that distance. Well, if the whole thing is 40 meters tall, this distance we can say is 40 minus this distance, which is x. So now we just take x squared plus 20 squared equals 40 minus x squared. Or x squared plus 400 is equal to, now let's multiply this out. On the previous one, I didn't multiply it out, and I felt a little bit bad for it. I just wrote the answer. So if we FOIL, 40 times 40 is 1,600. The inside is negative 40x. The outside is negative 40x. And then the last negative x times negative x is positive x squared. So we have 1,600 minus 80x plus x squared. Now I subtract 400 from both sides, leaving 1,200 minus 88x. I'll subtract x squared from both sides, and when I do that, those x squareds cancel out. So I have 0 equals 1,200 minus 80x. Now I add 80x to this side, and I divide by 80. So my x value is 1,200 divided by 80, which is 15. So this snaps 15 meters from the ground. Now, the next one says a local carnival is setting up a tent for carnival animals. They originally planned to stake a tent for a height that's 10 feet tall. To ensure the tent doesn't blow over, they stake it down with a 15-foot string. So let's start with that. This is a 15-foot string, and this is 10 feet tall. How far will the stake be from the base of the tent? Well, that would be this distance. So you just do a squared plus 10 squared plus b squared equals c squared. So a squared plus 100, which is 10 squared, is equal to 225. And then I'll subtract 100 from both sides. So a squared is equal to 125. Now you just take the square root of 125, and that is a is 11.18. All right, so we have our first answer. How far from the base of the tent? After setting it up, the carnival realizes they need to raise the tent by 2 feet. All right, so now it's 12 feet tall to ensure that the elephant can fit. So using the same string, how much closer is it to the tent? So now we have 15 and 12. Now we'll do the same thing. A squared plus 12 squared is equal to 15 squared, or a squared plus 144 is equal to 225. So if I subtract 225 and 144, I get 81. So a squared is equal to 81. So a will equal 9. So if that's 9 and that's 11.18, what's going to be the difference? How far closer will it have to be? Well, 11.18 minus 9 should be 2.18 feet. All right, this next one. 2 years ago, I received a phone call from my friend who had a geometry question. This is a real issue. He is a carpenter and he's making a wood countertop. And so there's this segment that's cut out of this bar. He's making a table for a bar, and he needed this to be, he needed the radius of this circle. Otherwise, it took him forever to figure out how to cut that. So he knew that this distance was 128 inches. He knew that this distance was 14. So if that's part of a circle, he wanted to find this radius. Well, the perpendicular bisector of a chord always passes through the center of the circle. So if that's 14, this side has to be 64. And if this distance is a radius, this distance here could be the radius minus 14. So I can set up a right triangle here where radius minus 14 squared plus 64 squared is equal to the radius squared. Now if I square this out, 64 squared is 4,096. So this will be r squared. The insides would be minus 14r. The outsides will be minus 14r. The last will be plus 196. So this would be r squared minus 28r. Add these two together, and we get 4,292. 4,292. So if we subtract r squared on both sides, we would have negative 28r is equal to, or plus 4292 is equal to 0. So now I'd add 28r to both sides. So 4,292 is equal to 28r. Divide that by 28, and my radius is 153.285, so maybe 29 inches. All right, so now he has the radius and he can make that cut. And he still uses this formula to this day and often. All right, number 10, we have a three-dimensional box. Oops. So if I want to find this diagonal, the Pythagorean theorem for 3 dimensions, we can use that, or we can find this distance here by using Pythagorean theorem down here. 10 squared plus 15 squared equals c squared, and square root it. So this is square root of 10 squared plus 15 squared, whatever that is. Now to find this hypotenuse, that makes a right triangle over here. So I'd take 12 squared plus the square root of 10 squared plus 15 squared is equal to my full distance squared. So this is the same thing as 12 squared plus 10 squared plus 15 squared, which this is your Pythagorean theorem for 3 dimensions. A squared plus b squared plus c squared equals d squared. So if you know that, you don't have to go through all of those steps. So we just take 144 plus 100 plus 225 is 469. Now, does it say, leave it in exact terms? So the square root of 469 should be the answer. And I'm not sure that this can divide into anything. So it can divide into 7, but nothing too well. We can just leave it the square root of 469. And that is the end of page 3.